Hey everyone, it's Evangeline here at etrailer, and today we have the Swagman Current electric bike rack. This is going to be a test fit. We're going to see how it works on our 2021 Chevrolet Trailblazer. So the Swagman Current is pretty popular because of its weight capacity as well as how you can carry your heavier bikes with this while still maintaining a simple design. Depending on which Current you get, you can also upgrade the older versions to the newer cradles if you want to use the add-on ramp and bridge that Swagman offers if you have heavy electric bikes. Fortunately for the Trailblazer though, because of where the hitch is, you might not need that ramp and bridge because of how low it sits to the ground. So we'll talk about things like that focusing on this car. The first thing we're going to talk about though is the tilt away feature. There's going to be a lever on the inside. You're going to want to pull that lever up and then tilt the rack down. And you'll do this if you want access into your hatch. So notice how we have plenty of clearance between our door, our pedals, and our handlebars. We can now reach in there, grab our waters, our helmets, sit here and switch out our shoes, whichever you want to do. You can do it without taking the bikes off. And when you're ready to drive again, you lift up, it snaps into place, and now you are ready to go. Something to keep in mind with this too is how small and compact it is. In fact, if you had the bikes off and this folded up, you can still open up the hatch. We'll take a look at that later. But for here, we'll talk about what types of bikes you can carry. I did mention a 60-pound weight capacity. If you need more, check out the Swagman E-Spec. There's also the ability to shift these cradles back and forth. I recommend moving your inner bike as far towards your driver's side as possible because you get more clearance that way. You have 3 touch points. 2 of them are going to be wheel straps, and the third is going to be your frame mount. This frame mount is lockable. So there's a lock core on the mount, and that way instead of having to deal with cable locks, you just lock this, and that prevents people from lifting that mount up and over. So when you want to take your bike off, you start though at the wheel straps. You press the lever and then you lift up on the strap. And once that's out, you just let it flip over so it's out of the way of your spokes. And if you're wondering why the strap seems to be so long, well, that's because that allows for a larger capacity of tire sizes. Maximum tire size is going to be up to 5-inch wide tires. We're going to take the bike off and take the frame mount off. Notice what I'm doing here is I'm pressing the button, lifting up on the hook, and completely removing the hook. I do that because it just makes it easier to lift the bike off. Because when you get your 60-pound electric bikes there, you don't want to have to lift them as high. So taking the hooks off and pushing the mast down means I only have to bring the bike up this high, and then I can kind of support it as we go down, giving myself a little bit of a break for those heavier bikes. Notice those cradles and their construction too. So they are metal cradles for extra stability, but they also have the grooves on the inside for those different tire widths. And that way, whether you have a thin road bike tire or a wider fat bike tire, you know it can accommodate it and give a solid base for it too. We're going to put these mounts back into place. Another thing though with a frame mount style like this is while it is helpful for keeping your bike secure, the downside is if you have a step-through bike or a carbon fiber frame bike or a children's bike, you may have to consider an adapter bar, especially for those step-through bikes. We do have frame adapter bars available here at etrailer if you need one for yours. Now, with all these straps away, we're going to push this back down so that we can take measurements for our vehicle. So first thing to measure is going to be the length added to the back of the car. I like to measure from the bumper to the end of the rack here. That's going to be 2 feet or 24 inches. When your bike's on there though, the handlebars will sit further out. Another measurement is going to be ground clearance. And measuring here by our shank, That's going to be about 10 inches of height. And then moving over to where our trays are, that's going to be 21 inches of height. So compared to where a hitch receiver is, your bikes are going to be sitting higher up off the ground. And with that measurement too, that's how high you're lifting your heavy 60-pound electric bikes to get them onto the rack. To make this more compact though, you can lift the lever you pulled earlier to tilt it away. This time you'll lift up on the rack. Notice our cradle. I pushed our cradle further towards the driver's side so that we would have clearance with our bumper. So while it looked like it came close, there was actually clearance there, and I'm not worried about it making contact at all. Taking more measurements from the bumper to the end of the rack, it's now a foot or 12 inches away. So it halved the distance it had in a folded down position. This is a great way to carry around your rack when you're just driving around town, not going for a bike ride just yet. And for a fun little extra thing that not all the other bike racks can do is, even with it folded up, you can still open up your hatch, reach in there, grab your groceries, put away groceries without taking the bike rack off or tilting it away. That is pretty unique and pretty nice to see. With this rack on this vehicle, the Swagman Current is designed for 1.25" hitch receivers with a 2-inch hitch adapter. I recommend getting the 2-inch hitch receiver for your Trailblazer if you do not already have one, just so that you have more tongue weight capacity. But if you do have the 1.25" version, this will work too. This has an anti-rattle bolt and a lock. That lock is key to those frame mount locks we talked about earlier. So that way you can access both the bike rack and the bikes with just one set of keys. Other things to note when using this on your vehicle is everything is available, like your rear view window, your taillights are visible, your license plate is visible, and even your backup camera sits above the bike rack. So you might see the bike rack in the bottom of your view, but you'll be able to see if there's any cars or vehicles or people behind you. With that being said, if you have a heavier bike, maybe you have over 60 pounds of e-bike weight, then something worth considering, I mentioned earlier, is the Swagman E-Spec. That will give you more weight capacity with a similar design. Also, I do recommend taking a look at the ramp and bridge options that Swagman offers, and that way make it easier for you to carry those heavier bikes. But all in all, for a simple frame mount solid platform rack with a great weight capacity, this was a really good pairing. This was a look at the Swagman Current electric bike rack, and you saw it right here on our 2021 Chevrolet Trailblazer.